What is up, people? My name is James Blissett, professional sports bettor and founder of Lucrative MMA, which is my handicapping service where I help people make money from betting on MMA. And today, like every week, I'm back with another edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Podcast. This is episode 39, and I will be breaking down the full UFC Paris card, which goes on next weekend in Paris. I can't wait because we've had a week off and, my finger is always itchy after a week off, right? So I'm always looking forward to where I can make some more money. I do gamble on the horse racing and the dog racing, but none of that is due to my own research. That is other people I know in the industry who tell me what to bet on. But me personally, I only research MMA and I only bet on MMA. I've been betting consistently for over 13 years, so I'm not new to this game. And yeah, I can't wait for this weekend. It's a solid card, top to bottom. It's a good card, not only for some of the betting angles I like on this card, because it is a good card for that, but it's also just a good card from pure entertainment value. There's a lot of fights on this card that I'm looking forward to, regardless of the betting. But the betting just makes it a little bit more worthwhile, right? That's what I always say. I like watching MMA. But the only other thing I like doing more than watching MMA is making money while I'm watching MMA. I've been doing it for many, many years now, and I'm looking to do it again. And I'm hoping to help you do it this weekend, at least, from this podcast. So thanks to everybody who is watching live right now. I know we've got a few of you in here. We've got Daz Files, good vibes, let's go. The Dab Father saying, what up, boys? Andre 3001, what's up, my brother? What is up? That's Andre 3000's brother over there. He was born after him, hence the 3001. Tristan is saying, do you use Excel spreadsheet template to track your bets? I track my bets on an Excel spreadsheet, but I also track my bets on betmma.tips, which is a third-party tracked record. So if anybody is a handicapper like me, or anybody is a tout, anybody is selling picks, anything like that, you have to make sure that they are third-party tracked on a platform independent to their own. So I do have a spreadsheet because I track my horse racing plays. I also track my dog plays. I also track sometimes, not every single one of them. I also track all my MMA plays on there. And I was tracking before I got onto betmma.tips, which I've been on that platform for about 3 years now. But that is a spreadsheet which I can edit myself, right? So if that was the only way I tracked, and I showed you my Excel spreadsheet, I can make whatever numbers I want on that spreadsheet. I can just make them up. I can say, I'm 500 units in profit this year. And no one can tell me different, right? Because I have an Excel spreadsheet that I've edited to say that. So when you're talking about Excel spreadsheets, and obviously this is not a direct answer to your question, I've already answered it, but just to let people know if they are looking at people to follow who say they're handicappers or touts, don't listen to them if they have an Excel spreadsheet, because who knows if they're telling you the truth of what they've put on their spreadsheet. Who knows if that spreadsheet is true or not, right? They could have edited it any way they want. They have to, in order to verify themselves, because there's a lot of fakes in this industry. There's a lot of scam decappers, a lot of scumbags, probably one of the most industries that are riddled with scumbags is the betting industry, unfortunately, is the industry that we're part of. So you have to make sure that these tipsters or handicappers or people who are purporting to be these professional bettors, they are tracked on a service which is independent to their own. So betmma.tips, I have no affiliation with betmma.tips. I don't know who owns it. I message him sometimes to remove bets before they've happened that I may have inputted incorrectly or something, but I don't know him. And I just input my bets on that spreadsheet. It's not a spreadsheet, it's a website. I input my bets on there, and then this is before the fights happen. And after the fights happen, the results auto-populate on that website, on my profile on that website, and I cannot change it. So you can go back right now, betmma.tips/lucrative MMA, and you can see my record for the past 3 years, which is uneditable. It's actually so uneditable that some bets I've inputted incorrectly on there, and I can't get them removed off now, even though I didn't tip them to my members, or I didn't even bet them myself, but I still can't remove them. So yeah, that was a long-winded answer, but I'm always on here to educate people I'm sports betting, right? I'm not just here to break down these fights, tell you who wins the fights and move on. I'm here to help you make money from sports betting and also to help you not lose money from sports betting. So if anytime you want to follow a tout or a handicapper, make sure you listen to what I said about the person having a third-party track record. So without further ado, we'll get to what we all came here to see, which is the UFC Paris card, my breakdown on the UFC Paris card. Yeah, I can't wait for this card, as I said, and we're going to get straight into it. The first fight of the night is William Gomez versus Jano Errens. Now, this fight is interesting because it's two newcomers, and they're not coming off the Contender Series. So, these days, most of the time when you see fighters who are making their UFC debut, they're Contender Series fighters, right? They're coming in off the Contender Series. So we have seen them fight at least once under the UFC banner, even though it wasn't professional. Yeah, it wasn't a professional UFC matchup. It was under the UFC banner, under Dana White's Contender Series, right? So it's not technically the UFC, but it is under the UFC umbrella. So we are usually a little bit familiar with these fighters making their UFC debuts in this day and age. But every now and then, like a couple of weeks ago, we saw Yasmin Uregi versus fight Yasmin Lucindo. Both fighters were not on the Contender Series. They just got signed outright. And that's what you get in here as well. William Gomez has never fought under the UFC banner before, Contender Series, anything like that. And same thing with Jano Errens. He has not either. They're both making their UFC debuts. And I'm excited for the bout because I think it's going to be a fun bout. We've got William Gomez coming in as about a -200 favorite at the moment, -215 some places. And then Jano Errens is coming in as the +170, +180 underdog. He opened about a +190, and he's been bet down a little bit. Did hit +165 on a couple of books. So money has been coming in on Jano Errens, and I understand why. So we got William Gomez. We'll speak about him first, right? He's a Parisian, so oftentimes the UFC, when they go into these territories like outside of the USA, they will put fighters from that country on the card. So this is a French fighter. He's from Paris. I believe he trains in the same gym of Cyril Gane. His coach is Fernand Lopez, who I also believe is the coach of Cyril Gane. I actually was watching one of William Gomez's fight, and I saw Cyril Gane, who is fighting on this card as well. Obviously, he's Parisian himself. I saw him cage side. So, I think their teammates haven't, looked into it too in depth, but I'm pretty sure they're teammates here. He looks like a good fighter. He's 10-2. Pretty solid, pretty well-rounded. He is a very powerful guy. He's a very athletic guy. Surprising that he doesn't have more standing knockouts on his record just because of the way he does hit. He'll throw heavy head kicks. But he's a little bit wild. He honestly reminds me of Blood Diamond a little bit. For those of you who are hardcore fans, you probably know who Blood Diamond is. Mike Maheta. He's a friend of Israel Adesanya. He's a training partner of Israel Adesanya coming out of that City Kickboxing camp in New Zealand. And he reminds me of William Gomez just in the fact that they are a little bit wild. They hit hard, but yeah, they are a little bit wild. So that's something to note when you're looking at backing a fighter, right? You want to see, can they stick to a game plan? What are they susceptible to? And I will say that William Gomez is susceptible to be punched in the face just because he's a little bit wild. But honestly, it's funny because it's like technically wild. So just to break that down a little bit more, it's like when he strikes, the movement and the flow of his striking is pretty technical. Like he'll throw a very straight body kick, for example. But when he's bringing that kick back, he can often be out of position. And he throws so hard. So like 70% of the move is technical. He looks pretty good. His hips are in a good position, turns the hips over. But when he comes back, I think because he throws so hard and with so much power, the movement just gets more wild than it should be, right? So if you are fighting and let's say you throw a body kick at 50% power, right? It's much easier to be more technical and less wild with that 50% power than if you was throwing a body kick 100% power, right? If anybody has fought, who's listening to this, or anybody who's trained, or even watched MMA or fighting consistently, you will know inherently that if you throw a punch or a strike or anything at 100% power, it's going to be less technical than if you throw it at 50% power, right? Just inherently, that's just how the human body works. If I tense up, and not even tense up, but if I just throw a right hook, 100% power, like, wow, throw the right hook, it's going to be less technical than if I just bomb, just quick right hook, bomb, 50% power, right? And so that's why I think William Gomez comes across to me as a little bit wild on tape. It's not because of his technique. Like, his technique isn't wild per se. It's just he throws so much power into his strikes that it can often lead himself to be in a bad position where he could get countered, or to be just even in a bad position, even if he does connect, So, yeah, that is one thing I noticed about William Gomez, and it may get him to trouble in some of his MMA fights. It has got him into trouble a couple of times in the MMA scene, but he hasn't been fighting fighters that are that good to take advantage of that, in my opinion. And once he starts going up the ranks, that will work for him because he'll get a lot of knockouts and he'll hurt a lot of people. But it may go against him when he comes up against the upper echelon. You're talking about the top 20s, top 15 of the division, especially when you get a clinical striker, because they'll be able to see that and potentially counter it, But look, all in all, William Gomez is a solid fighter, very heavy hands, very heavy body kicks, as I said, head kicks as well. He will shoot for the takedown as well. He is a striker by trade. He's a kickboxer. I think Wushu Sander is what he prefers to be announced as in terms of his background style, or his basis style. But he will go for the takedowns. I've seen him shoot takedowns in every single fight I watched. He shot at least one takedown. So yes, he's a striker, but he will go for the takedowns. Now, he's not going to pursue takedowns consistently, but they're in his back pocket if he needs them. And as I said, he's very athletic, so he gets the takedowns through athletics a lot of the time just because he's so powerful. And then in terms of his top position, his ground and pound, it's also very athletic and very powerful. So I've seen him finish people from top position twice. Actually, he done it in his last fight and the fight before that. He finished a Dagestani, Arip Yakubov. Was able to take him down, which is, solid. Anytime you can take down a Dagestani. And then he was able to finish him from top position, just as he did Jose Marcos in his last fight. So he's very good from top position in terms of his power. And on the feet, he's decent power as well. I think he's a decent prospect. I think he's got raw ability, but he does have to shore some things up in terms of his, wildness and stuff like that. If he wants to go and fight at the upper echelon of the division, but he's only 25 years old and he's making his UFC debut. So all in all, I think he's a decent fighter, a solid prospect, and there's a lot to like about him. I don't think he's probably as good as this fighter I'm about to mention, but he reminds me of him in some ways, just because they're young, they're very athletic, they got good power, and they have a basic skill set and physicality that I think could lend itself to them doing well at the UFC level. And the fighter I'm comparing him to for those reasons is, I'm going to forget the fighter's name now, but he just knocked out, he was on the Contender Series. He beat Veretennikov on the Contender Series, and then he knocked out Trevin Giles. Michael Morales, the Ecuadorian fighter. He reminds me of William Gomez in some ways in what I just mentioned, right? Please, I'm not saying they're carbon copies of each other, because I have to, put that disclaimer out there. Anytime you compare someone online, someone always comments like, no, but look, this is different about them. They've got different color hair. They're not exactly the same. I'm not saying they're exactly the same, but there's a few similarities there, right? And then when we get onto his opponent, Jarno Errens, we'll talk about him now. He's fighting out of the Netherlands. He's a more traditional fighter, in my opinion. Like, he looks like he doesn't throw everything with 100% power. He isn't out of position as much as William Gomez, in my opinion. He is a bit more technical. He does read his opponent a little bit more than William Gomez. He's a good striker, and he is a striker by trade. He's a kickboxer, Muay Thai practitioner. But I will say that he has got good grappling from top position and just good offensive grappling in general. I've seen him reverse people on the ground. I've seen him reverse people via getting an armbar and, sweeping them from the armbar and moving to triangle. And he flows well with submissions. But this dude has an extremely huge hole in his MMA game, and that is the defensive grappling. So I've seen this guy taken down in so many fights. Basically, every single fight I watched of this dude, he got taken down. In fights that he won, fights that he lost, he got grapple fucked badly in a lot of these fights. His takedown defense is not good, and his bottom game, his guard game, is not good. that's a huge liability in his game, right? I feel like in this fight, I feel like the striking could be close. I mean, William Gomez is always live for a knockout for the reasons I've mentioned. But I feel like, and I have seen Jano Erens knocked down before by a fighter who I don't really rate that much, like in terms of his striking. I think William Gomez is a much better striker. But I will say that Erens, although he got knocked down in that fight, it wasn't hurt. It was more of a flash knockdown. I think Erens is a good striker, but this is MMA. This is not striking. So as I was saying, I think if this fight is a kickboxing fight, I think this is a -110 type fight. I think Gomez and Erens will compete on the feet very closely with each other, and I can see either of them winning it on the feet. But I feel like Gomez is definitely going to mix in the takedowns. He does it every fight, although he doesn't pursue it too much. He does it every fight that I've seen, and I've watched 3 or 4 fights of his. So, quite a substantial amount of time I've watched this guy fighting, and he's shot in every single fight. He's gone for the takedown in every single fight. I don't see why he won't do it in this fight. I do think he's going to be able to get the takedowns. I do think he's going to be able to probably inflict some damage from top position. But I think Erens is a tough motherfucker. I think he'll fight to the final bell, unless he gets put unconscious. I think he will fight to the final bell. I don't think he'll give up. Gomez might land some heavy strikes from top position, but I don't think that he will finish Erens, unlike his last 2 fights. He's got finishes in his last 3 fights, but last 2 fights specifically from top position, he got ground and pound finishes. So, yeah, as I said, I think the fight's going to be kind of even on the feet, but I think Gomez has the takedown upside here. But look, there is a caveat, because if Erens does get to Gomez's back, I think that's a round. I think the round is over. I think he's got a great body lock triangle, so I think he can definitely, keep the fight on the ground for that time. So, look, man, I feel like Erens is the money line side, but Gomez looks more solid to me. He looks like he's got more potential. He looks like that he won't have too much trouble getting the takedowns, and I don't think he'll have any trouble keeping Erens on the ground, because, as I said, Erens is not he's not a good ground game. He doesn't have a good ground game, right? So that's all I'm going to say about this fight. I spoke on this one in depth, and I usually do speak on fights in depth, but when I'm doing my full card breakdowns, like I've been doing recently, I try and get those out a little bit quicker. But you know me, I like to go in depth on fights. I like to give you guys multiple angles to the fights, because fighting is a complex sport. MMA is a crazy game. We see upsets all the time, like Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. The guy looks plus 900 for most of the fight, and then he gets a knockout with 50 seconds left. I think Kamaru Usman was minus 5,000, which is, hilarious, with 51 seconds to go. And Leon Edwards gets a knockout. So there's many, many caveats to the fight game. There's many crazy outcomes. And it's important to speak about multiple angles to the fight and not just say, this fight is going to win. The other fighter is impossible for him to win, or, he's definitely not going to win. Anyone can win at any given day. We saw that last weekend with Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. So, yeah, I do think Gomez is going to win the fight. So, yeah, I'm going to take Gomez. I'm going to say that the striking is competitive, but Gomez is able to win via getting the takedowns when he needs to. But he might get caught a couple of times on the feet. So we'll go to the next fight, which is another fighter making their UFC debut, and another fighter not making their UFC debut via the Dana White's Contender Series route, just being signed straight off the bat, which is good. I like to see that, because Dana White's Contender Series, yeah, those fighters are good, but I mean, the best fighters in the world outside of the UFC are not fighting on the Dana White's Contender Series for the most part. They're fighting in other organizations. They're champions in other organizations. The UFC should be trying to sign those guys, not off the Contender Series. Contender Series is good and all, but man, there's so many good fighters outside of the UFC that the UFC could be trying to sign at least. There's a lot that goes into signing fighters. It's not just, we're the UFC, we like you, so we're going to sign you. There is more that goes into that, but it's always good to see fighters being signed straight from the regional scene, in my opinion, especially fighters who deserve it. Does this fighter deserve it? I don't really know. I do think she is a UFC level fighter, actually, and that is Ailin Perez. But I don't know if she's necessarily deserving of the spot, because she hasn't really done anything on the regional scene to deserve it. I mean, look, she's 7-1, 7-0 in my opinion. She dominated the fight that she lost. So look, she's 7-0 in my opinion. She got disqualified, illegal knee. It wasn't a legal knee, but man, she was fucking that girl up. So in my opinion, she hasn't lost. She's undefeated, 7-0, but she's fighting bums at the end of the day. She's fighting girls who are not very good. The girl who she did get beat, but she got disqualified against, she is the best fighter she's fought. That girl's 6-1, and honestly, she was being dominated by Ailin Perez. That girl has actually been signed to the UFC now. Her name is Tamares Vidal, and she does have a win over Martina Jindrova, who's a decent fighter who is now fighting in the PFL. And her only loss is against Carol Rosa, who is obviously a UFC contender. Just beat Holly Holm recently. And she lost that fight in round 3, so she didn't get, completely wiped out straight away. So she looks to be, sorry, Carol Rosa didn't beat Holly Holm. She just got beat by Sarah McMahon. Sorry, I always get Hosa mixed up with the girl that Holly Holm fought recently. Forgot her name, but I always get Carol Hosa and her mixed up. Don't know why. But yeah, she may not be the worst fighter of all time, this Tamares Vidal, who Ailin Perez basically did beat, in my opinion. So I was speaking about Ailin Perez not having a good resume, and she doesn't, but that was her only fight that, she fought a decent fight. Honestly, she completely dominated that fight. But it was a boring fight. Not much happened, but she did dominate that fight. So yeah, this fight is a good fight. She's facing Stephanie Egger. So, I mean, it's a hard debut, She wasn't meant to be facing Stephanie Egger. They set her up, and they set her up with a fight against Zara Fern. So, Ailin Perez, who is now fighting Stephanie Egger, was meant to fight Zara Fern. That's who she was coming in against. And Zara Fern, she's not a UFC level fighter. She's 6-4. She is from France. Obviously, that's why she was on the card. She's lost her only 2 fights in the UFC by first round finish. But I will say that, we have to give her a little bit of a break for those fights. It was against Megan Anderson, who's Felicia Spencer. But we're not going to speak about her. But basically, this was a setup fight, in my opinion. Ailin Perez was going to go in there and dominate Zara Fern, I think. I would never play the money line, but I was going to play the Ailin Perez inside the distance because Zara Fern looks to be, fairly terrible off her back. And Ailin Perez will spam takedowns. So she's getting a much harder fight now. Zara Fern had to pull out. I'm not 100% sure why, but they replaced her with Stephanie Egger, who's a much, much better fighter. We know about Stephanie Egger. She's 2-2 in the UFC, coming off that first round submission loss against Mayra Bueno Silva, but it was a first round armbar. Can't take too much from that. She did take down Mayra Bueno Silva, who's actually not easy to take down. So we'll shout out to her for getting on top position. She's from Switzerland, this girl, so she's making a fast turnaround because that fight was only about 3 weeks ago, and Stephanie Egger, she's stepping back in there against Ailin Perez, the newcomer, 3 weeks after losing via armbar, and she's a huge minus 350 favorite, minus 300 in some spots. I have to say, guys, that I cannot get behind Stephanie Egger being minus 350 in this spot. We don't know enough about Ailin Perez to just instantly label her a plus 250 underdog, plus 265, plus 275 best price, guys. Plus 275. I mean, I just think the line's wide. I don't understand how you can get Stephanie Egger at minus 350. We've seen Stephanie Egger taken down multiple times in her career. We've seen Stephanie Egger submitted last time out. Jessica Rose took her down. Tracy Cortez took her down 3-4 times. Ailin Perez will spam takedowns here. On the feet, Stephanie Egger's not great. Neither is Ailin Perez. Yeah, I mean, minus 350. Why? I don't really. Yeah, obviously she's fought the higher level of competition, but we don't really know much about Ailin Perez to just instantly say, oh yeah, she should be plus 250. We just don't know, guys. It's hard for me to get behind this price tag on Stephanie Egger. The one thing I will say is that Ailin Perez has fought at bantamweight for most of her fight. I think she did have one catch weight, potentially, but she's fought at bantamweight for most of her career. And this fight is at featherweight. But Stephanie Egger is also a bantamweight fighter. So, I mean, yeah, they're both coming up in weight. You know, when she was training for Zara Fern is actually a featherweight. She's not a bantamweight, you know. But Aylin Perez is now fighting a fighter who's actually smaller. So they're both bantamweights fighting at featherweight. So they kind of cancel each other out in that regard. Yeah, I think the money line side is clearly Aylin Perez here. And I'm going to actually take Aylin Perez for the upset victory here. I'm going to say that she's able to get the takedowns and squeak out a boring split decision win. I think that on the feet, it'll be close. And Stephanie Egger's obviously live for the armbar and submission. You know, it could definitely could happen. But I don't know. I'm going to stick with the plus 250 underdog here. I feel like convicted to say that Stephanie Egger should never be minus 350 in an MMA fight against a UFC level fighter. I do think Aylin Perez is UFC level just about. UFC level, bantamweight, women's division is not that high level, so you don't have to be super high level to be UFC level in that division. So I'm going to stick with the plus 250 underdog here, and I'm going to say she gets it done via squeaky split decision. And then everybody who parlayed Stephanie Egger at minus 400 like absolute lunatics is moaning, you know, like they did when they bet, who was it, Horiguchi at like minus 300 against Patchy Mix. I bet Patchy Mix there plus 250, plus 200, whatever it was. And tons of people just moaning because it was a split decision, close fight, or whatever it was. But they parlayed Horiguchi at minus 350, just absolute terrible bet. And I think that's what Stephanie Egger could look like this weekend. So look, I'm fully aware that Stephanie Egger could armbar this chicken in about 30 seconds, honestly, genuinely. But yeah, I mean, I'm siding with the plus 250 underdog here, guys. So the next fight we have is Khalid Taha versus Kristen Quinones. Now, a fight I don't give a shit about in terms of betting, but a fight I'm actually very much looking forward to in terms of entertainment purposes. So the reason I don't care about it, guys, is because I don't know what Kristen Quinones is. I don't have enough data on the guy at this level to know whether he's solid or not. He looks like a decent fighter. You know, he looks like he's got good range control, good range management, but there are some question marks there. You know, he got submitted. He has been knocked out as well on the regional scene. One punch knockout. Got knocked out on the regional scene a couple of times. Got knocked out by this dude who, I don't know if he's any good. Like, he's fought on the regional scene, so it's kind of hard to get a beat on him for me. Had a good performance on the Contender Series. Did get not rocked, but he got caught in that fight multiple times. I just don't have enough data. Look, he looks like a slick striker. You know, he'll keep it on the outside. He looks kind of like Ian Gary in a way. He's very long. He'll slip back out of range. I don't think he's as slick as Ian Gary. He will get hit a lot more than that, a lot more, honestly. But just in terms of the way he fights with his hands down sometimes, he's very slick, you know, shoulder bumping, pulling back out of range, pull counters, uppercut, slick uppercut, that sort of thing. He's a very slick, strong, tall guy, right? In Khalid Taha is a little bit different. You know, he's shorter, more stockier, more of a powerhouse. He's not going to go for takedowns here, and Kristen Quinones is not going to go for takedowns either. So it's going to be a striking fight. I don't have much data to go on Kristen Quinones. You know, I have data on Khalid Taha, but I don't really have much data on Khalid Taha fighting this type of fighter either, like a long-rangey guy who likes to stick on the outside. We've got Khalid Taha fighting Jaime Barcelos, who's a very unique fighter, to say the least. And then Morozov, who's just going to spam takedowns, and he's got good boxing. And who else has he fought? Nad Nuramani, who's going to spam takedowns. Bruno Silva, who was a flyweight, you know, who he just choked out. And then Boston Salmon, who knocked out in 25 seconds. Like, there's not too much data on Taha fighting this type of fighter. And then Quinones in general, there's not much data against him fighting at this level of competition. So the line's minus 130 to Khalid Taha, plus 110 on the other side of Quinones. I don't have a much read on this fight. I don't really give a shit about this one in terms of a betting angle. So I'm just going to move on. I think Khalid Taha knockout. You know, I think Khalid Taha is going to land a heavy shot. I think Khalid Taha is going to land a heavy overhand right at some point. So, you know, maybe you look at a Taha KO prop. But honestly, guys, I don't have too much to say about this fight. And that's what I'll do, right? If I don't look, I spoke for 10, 12, 13 minutes on the first fight of the evening. You know, two debuting fighters. And I've spoke for about 2 minutes on this fight. It's because if I feel a type of way about a fight, if I feel that the fight commands respect in terms of a long breakdown, you know, if I feel the fight commands a long breakdown, then I'll give it a long breakdown. But if I think the fight is hard to judge, we don't have a lot of data to go on in this specific matchup, I don't have a great read on it, I don't think there's many angles you can attack it, I think there's too many unknowns on it, I'm not going to break the fight down for a long time. So, yeah, that's how I feel about the fight. Don't have much to say about it, guys. Taha, KO prop, maybe. But, yeah, I'm moving on. The next fight we have is Benoit Saint-Denis versus Gabriel Miranda. Another fighter making their UFC debut, and Quinones is also making his UFC debut. Now, he was coming from the Contender Series. So the first 4 fights of the night, we've got 5 debutants. So in every single fight, in the first 4 fights, there's at least one fighter making their UFC debut here. And that's what we've got in this fight. Gabriel Miranda is making his UFC debut. Again, a fighter not coming off the Contender Series. And he's fighting Benoit Saint-Denis, who I think is going to have a decent UFC career. You know, he looks like a very solid fighter. Most of you will know him from facing Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. I had a massive bet on Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos there. One of my biggest bets of the last year. And he dominated the fight, Zaleski. But most of you will remember him because he was knocked out on his feet, basically, and didn't give up. And you had that terrible, terrible referee. I can't remember the dude's name now, but the referee basically refused to stop the fight. Honestly, looked like it was a fixed fight. Like it looked like the referee may have had money on Benoit Saint-Denis or was told to let the fight go to decision, you know, like don't stop the fight, let it go over. Or the referee had money on the over or some shit like that. But I think he took a point from Zaleski dos Santos, which shouldn't have been a point taken from him as well. So maybe, you know, he bet on Benoit Saint-Denis or something like that because it was a terrible, terrible referee and display. And in the second round, you know, Zaleski had Benoit Saint-Denis on skates, knocked him down, hurt him badly. Fight should have been stopped multiple times and the referee just let it go. And actually, the UFC, mid-event, after the fight finished, pulled that referee from the event and didn't let him referee on any more fights on that event, that night. That's how bad the refereeing was. So that's probably how you could remember this Benoit Saint-Denis, but he did bounce back from that and, you know, was able to save himself. Well, not save himself, but he was able to put on a much better display in the eyes of the UFC fans and obviously of himself and his coaches when he took on Nicholas Stolze back in June of this year. So only a couple of months ago. He was a -160 favorite in that fight, and he actually dominated the fight and won via rear naked choke in round 2. Had the rear naked choke locked in round 1 as well, so could have been a round 1 finish there for him. And that was at his rightful weight class of lightweight, right? Because the fight I was talking about where he got battered and should have been knocked out in that fight, you know, should have been stopped, that was at welterweight. So he was making his UFC debut. I think they needed somebody, and he stepped in and he fought up a weight class at welterweight and, you know, didn't embarrass himself, although he did get badly hurt in that fight. Definitely showed his toughness and durability there. You know, that can be unquestioned. I think he was former special forces in France. He's a Parisian of himself. So, you know, dude's a tough motherfucker, you know, and that was proven in that Zaleski dos Santos fight. This guy's a pressure fighter, right? He'll throw good boxing, you know, straight punches, but he wants to get the fight to the ground, you know, with spam takedowns in every one of his fights. He tries to pressure his fighter up against the cage, get takedowns and dominate from top position. And he's going to do no difference in this fight. Now he's fighting Gabriel Miranda, who's coming in from Brazil, Curitiba. We have a lot of good MMA fighters coming out of Curitiba for many, many years now. He's fighting Benoit Saint-Denis, and he's going to have to fight the takedowns here. And I'll tell you something now. He is also a takedown artist himself, but he's more of a submission guy. With Benoit Saint-Denis, he's more of a pressure wrestler. He's got a lot of submissions on his record, but they're powerful submissions. They're arm triangle chokes. They're face cranks. They're rear naked chokes. Whereas Gabriel Miranda, much more of a slick jiu-jitsu guy. You know, he's got guillotine chokes. He's got triangle chokes. He's got arm bars on his record. So a much different fighter than Benoit Saint-Denis, but what they do have in common is that they both like the fight to be on the ground. So it's an interesting style clash here, very interesting dynamic, style dynamic, because on the one hand, you've got Saint-Denis who's going to push grappling. And on the other hand, you've got Miranda who's going to push grappling. So who's going to win in that grappling? I think Bernard Saint Denis is definitely the stronger fighter. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to have the strength advantage in this fight. We have seen Miranda, back in the day, did fight a few fights at featherweight. Although he is a lightweight fighter, he has got a couple of featherweight fights on his record. I think Bernard Saint Denis is going to be the stronger fighter here, just the bigger fighter, the more muscular fighter, the fighter with the more physicality. So I do think that he's going to be able to dictate where the fight goes. But I wouldn't say it's out of the stretch of the imagination that Miranda isn't able to get a takedown, because basically every one of his fights I've ever seen, he's able to get a takedown most of the time. So I do think he can get a takedown here. But I think Bernard Saint Denis is going to be the one pushing the takedowns. And it's just up to Miranda whether he's able to get something off his back. Because I think for the most part, he's going to be on his back in this fight, going to be up against the cage. And is he able to get a slick submission off his back? Because I've seen him do it multiple times. I've seen the fight, I've seen him get in a scramble and take someone's back, which could easily happen here. I've seen him get a guillotine choke, which could easily happen here when Bernard Saint Denis is going for the takedowns. I've seen him get armbars from bottom. So that could happen here because he's going to be on bottom. So he's a very slick jiu-jitsu guy. And Bernard Saint Denis being up at minus 300, it's getting a little bit out there now for me. He's not minus 300 yet, but once he hits minus 300, the line's wide. There's too many unknowns on Miranda. Miranda, he hasn't fought a good level of competition. He's fought bums at the end of the day. He did fight Akhmed Magomedov in Brave. And that Magomedov was actually a good fighter. He's 9-0 now. He's fought in the Bellator. I actually bet on him in his last Bellator fight, like minus 400. He got a rear naked choke in 1 minute there. He's a good fighter. He was able to nullify Miranda's strengths and, win the fight via unanimous decision. And I feel like Bernard Saint Denis is going to be able to nullify Miranda's strengths here as well. But yeah, I like Bernard Saint Denis in this fight, but I do think the line's getting a little bit wide now. Miranda's definitely live for a submission. Miranda via submission is just going to be insane odds. So I don't hate anyone taking a pop on that. Miranda inside the distance is already plus 320. So, submission might be up there at plus 600 or something. Maybe. Depends. I don't know. And they might make it closer to the inside the distance. They could definitely put it at plus 450. But, once you're talking about plus 450, plus 550, plus 650, it might not be, crazy to take a shot there. But look, I like Bernard Saint Denis in this fight. I do think that his grappling is going to be too strong. I do think his strength is going to be too strong for Gabriel Miranda. I think he's going to be able to dictate where this fight goes. Don't mind the over. Over set at 1.5, kind of like the over. Could even push it to the over 2.5 here. I think it's going to be a grueling fight at times, but Miranda is a bit of a crazy fighter. His fights just don't go to decision. His fights don't really go over. His fights are often finish early. But I do like the over here. So take that for what it's worth. The next fight we have is Nasruddin Imavov versus Joaquin Buckley. Another fight that's an exciting fight. We're ripping through these now, and that's the way I like it. This is a solid fight. Very solid fight. I think that, again, the line is just getting a little bit up there in terms of where I would want to play it. This is the only fight where I actually want to watch a couple more fights. So I've done the breakdown, or I've done the tape research. I've done my study for all of the fights on this card. But the Imavov and Buckley fight is a fight where I want to look a little bit more in depth at tape. There's a few things I want to look at before I decide whether I'm going to pass or whether I'm going to bet on this fight. But I feel like I'm going to pass on it. I just feel like Imavov at minus 300 is just getting a little bit wide. Look, Imavov's probably going to be able to catch Buckley with something heavy here. Probably going to be able to knock Buckley out, actually. And the takedowns will be there for him as well. He probably should have Buckley covered everywhere. But at the end of the day, Buckley's takedown defense is not that bad. Like, on the ground, Buckley's horrible, from his guard. But his takedown defense is not terrible. We saw that in the Duraev fight. And the striking, Buckley's, going to be in with a chance striking against most people. Like, he's going to land. Even in that Kevin Holland fight, he was landing at times. Buckley's an exciting fighter. I just feel like there's better spots on the card than a minus 275 Nasruddin Imavov. Obviously, Imavov is looking like the real deal these days. He's got good striking, good takedowns. This seems like a good fight for him to maybe get a knockout or just to have a clean performance. But I'm not laying minus 275. At this line, I'd be more keen to play the Buckley money line for sure than betting on Imavov at almost 3-1. A bit ridiculous there. So, yeah, not much more to say about this fight, guys. I think Imavov's a clean striker, stays on the outside. We saw him dominate Edmund Shabazian from top position, but Edmund's just bad from his ground, and he was gassed in that fight. So I feel like Imavov could maybe do the same. He could get Buckley on the ground and look pretty solid from top position. But Buckley's in and out of range. He finds range decently well. He hits with, a lot of power. He's always liable to get a mad spinning kick, that could land on anyone, the one that landed on Impa Kasanganai. So, yeah, I'm happy to pass on this fight. There's a few things I want to watch on tape before I completely decide, but I'm happy to just let this fight be an entertainment style fight for me. Watch this fight from an entertainment perspective, because this fight is going to be fireworks. No matter who wins, it's going to be a very exciting fight, because there's no Buckley fight that's boring, and there's honestly no Nasruddin Imavov fight that's boring either. So, yeah, that's all I've got to say about that one there. The next fight we have is Fares Ziam versus Michael Figlak, another debutant. So we've got multiple debutants on this card, on the prelims. On the main card, as usual, you don't ever have debutants on the main card, basically. But the prelims, they're full of debutants. And we've got that in Michael Figlak here. He's coming in off the Cage Warriors scene, Cage Warriors fighter through and through. Had a decent amateur career, extensive amateur background where he actually fought Jack Shaw. And then he went into the Cage Warriors scene, coming from England himself. A lot of those fighters do fight in the Cage Warriors scene. He was born in Poland, but I believe he lives and trains in England. So, a lot of those fighters do come out of the Cage Warriors scene. It's a solid scene there. We've had some very good fighters come out of Cage Warriors in the past. Conor McGregor, obviously. I think Bisping fought there at one point, maybe. Anderson Silva fought there. And then we've got some new cream of the crop guys like Paddy Pimblett, Jai Herbert. So, there's a lot of fighters, decent fighters that come out of that Cage Warriors scene. And Michael Figlak looks to be the mold. He looks like he's got a good future in the game. He's got clean striking, never puts himself out of position like I was saying that William Gomez does at times. He's always in a good position to counter strike. He'll mix in the takedowns. He's got good pressure, very measured fighter, high fight IQ, in my opinion. He's got all the tools to be a good fighter. He doesn't really do anything poorly. I don't see many weaknesses in his game, or if they are in his game, I haven't seen them exposed yet. So he's a good fighter. It's hard to not like this guy. He's coming in as a decently sized favorite here. He's a minus 200 favorite, and he's fighting Fares Ziam, who's a plus 170 underdog, which was a little bit surprising to me. I mean, Ziam is a fighter with multiple UFC fights under his belt now. This is going to be his 5th UFC fight. And as I said, obviously, Figlak coming in on his UFC debut. I feel like Fares Ziam is a good striker. Obviously, he's a kickboxer by trade. He's gonna be competitive on the feet here. I don't think that he'll get blown away. I don't think there's many people, in the division really that will necessarily blow him away on the feet. Obviously, when you're talking about top 10, okay, those guys will just dominate him on the feet, right? But when you're talking about a UFC debutant, I don't really see Figlak dominating Fares Ziam on the feet. I think Ziam could win the striking, honestly. He's a good kickboxer, Ziam. He's also good at what's the word? He's good at controlling range, which Figlak is also good at. So it's going to be interesting to see who controls range better in this fight, because both of them are very good at controlling range. So, yeah, I think this fight is actually closer than the line suggests. Now, the big caveat is that Figlak could probably cover his price tag if he shoots takedowns here. But look, the way I see this fight breaking down is that, as I said, on the feet, I may give a slight lean to Ziam. I mean, it's very close. Maybe it's even. I don't really know much about Figlak. Like, I've seen Ziam strike against Jamie Malarkey, Dom Madge a little bit, Luigi Vendramani. So those fighters are much better than the fighters Michael Figlak has been striking against. So it looks like the fight will be minus 110 on the feet, but that's just because there's a lot of unknowns there, right? Like Figlak, he looks good on the feet, but maybe he wouldn't look that good if he was fighting Dom Madge, or maybe he wouldn't look that good if he was fighting Jamie Malarkey on the feet, you know? Whereas first Ziam is looking decent on the feet against those guys. So I feel like this fight on the feet is close, but maybe you give a slight lean to Ziam, or at very worst, you call it minus 110. And then I feel like Figlak has the big grappling advantage. I think he will shoot takedowns, and we know first Ziam is not very good when he gets taken down. But, he did win against Jamie Malarkey, but he didn't deserve that win. But he did get back up to his feet multiple times there. So Michael Figlak has the grappling advantage, but I don't think Ziam's just going to be completely dominated from top position, put it that way. It's not going to be a Terrence McKinney versus Frank Ziam, put it that way. So I think on the feet, this is how the fight breaks down. On the feet, even, from what we know. Figlak, grappling upside. Ziam, experience upside. Level of competition upside. So in my opinion, this fight is a minus 110 type fight, and they're giving me plus 160, plus 170. I locked in a bet at plus 170 on Fares Ziam because they're giving me plus 170 in a fight I think should be 50-50, from what we know. So that's it. I think the money line side is clearly Fares Ziam here. I don't think there's any arguing on that, honestly. And yeah, I locked in a bet on Fares Ziam myself. Not a huge bet because there are many unknowns. And I do think Figlak can probably cover his price tag if he does shoot takedowns consistently here. But yeah, I've got the bet on Fares Ziam, and I'm hoping he gets the win here. What have we got next? We're blasting through this, and this is actually a fight I'm pretty excited for because I think this fighter is a very good fighter. We've got Abusapian Magomedov, 24-4 fighter, fighting out of Germany, but he was born in Dagestan, hence the Magomedov name. He's taking on Dustin Stoltzfus here, and he's a big favorite. He's minus 265, minus 250, minus 265, and he's making his UFC debut. So another UFC debutant here. And I'm actually excited for this one. I think he's definitely a UFC level fighter. I think he's a good fighter. And I'm excited to see his debut here. I think he's going to beat Dustin Stoltzfus. I don't think Stoltzfus has anything for him here. I think on the feet, Magomedov can win. And I think on the ground, he can take him down and dominate and maybe even get a finish. I don't have too much to say about this one, guys. Magomedov has fought in PFL. He got knocked out in PFL in his last PFL fight, which was a pretty brutal knockout. He got knocked out in 30 seconds, but we can't take anything from a 30-second knockout, honestly. Before that, I don't think he'd ever been knocked out in his entire career. So it's just one of those ones where he just got caught in that fight, against Lewis Taylor, who's a fighter who is actually a decent fighter himself. He's not that bad, and he hits very, very, very hard. So anybody can get knocked out by Lewis Taylor, especially if he catches him in the first round like that. And he did catch him. So other than that, his record is pretty solid. He's got a draw against Umalatov, but that was because it was a 2-round fight. Because the PFL, if you know the PFL format, some of their rounds are 2 rounds. Some of their fights are 2 rounds because a fighter has to get a certain number of points, and those points are broken down by if they get a first round stoppage, a second round stoppage, or a decision win, or a third round stoppage. And if the fighter can't progress by getting a first or second round stoppage, if they don't get a first or second round stoppage, sometimes the fight will only be 2 rounds. And that is what happened in this fight. The reason he got a draw, he won the first round, Magomedov, and then all he had to do was survive the next 5 minutes, and he would be going on to the semifinals, I think it was, of that PFL tournament. So he won the first round, and then he just let the second round slip. He didn't really try to fight in that second round. So he lost that second round. So it was 1-1. So it was a draw. But in my opinion, he could have easily won that fight. So other than that, his blemishes on his record, you have to go back to 2015. He lost a decision against Mikhail Parlo. And then you're talking about almost 10 years ago when he lost before that. So look, I think the guy's a solid prospect. I think he can actually do good things in the middleweight division. I think he can get in the top 15 of the middleweight division for sure. And I think he's going to dominate Dustin Stolfus here. His fighting style is sometimes he doesn't completely dominate. Like, he can be a bit passive on the feet. He can be a little bit low volume. His grappling isn't exactly potent. He can be more position over submission. But at the end of the day, man, the guy's got a lot of finishes. So even though his style doesn't look like it's that dangerous, he does end up getting a lot of finishes. I do think that Magomedov's going to win this fight, and I think he wins it fairly comfortably here. I'm not even going to talk about Stolfus because, in my opinion, there's no point. I don't see many paths to victory for Stolfus here. I'm pretty confident in Magomedov. The next fight on the card is the first fight on the main card. It's an absolute banger. Before we get into the main card, I'll go through a couple of comments. I just want to say thank you, everybody, for being here live. If you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I put out content like this every single week, hoping to help you make money. So please hit me with a like and a comment and a subscribe for that reason. I'll have a little sip of my peppermint tea and get on to some of the comments before I hit up the main card. We've got Leonardo saying, is Whittaker by decision a great or the best ver? What? I guess you're saying, is Whittaker by decision a great bet? I actually like Whittaker by decision, yeah. I think it's pretty solid. And I'll get to that when I speak on Whittaker. Do you sell your template? No, I don't sell my template. You can get lots of free templates online, or you can just pay someone to make you one up. Kevin is just got done rolling up, ready for a full carb breakdown. I hope that you enjoying your weed, and I hope we can help you make some money. Gino saying, I love you, Lucrative. I love you too, Gino. I appreciate it. Chris is saying, we are honored to have a breakdown master in our presence. Chris, appreciate you, my man. Hopefully this breakdown helps you make some money. Jano is saying, it's the first time I've seen a guy named Jano in the UFC. Guess you have to bet him small. Man, honestly, like, he got a decent shot in the fight. So I wouldn't be surprised if he wins. UFC Lucrative, my brother. Well, it seems like we are brothers, Lucrative brothers. Stefan is saying, hello, brother. It's 7 o'clock here in Spain. What time in Australia? It's 20 to 5 p.m. in Australia on Monday. Is it Sunday for you, or it's 7 a.m. for you? 7 a.m. Monday, right? Yeah, it's 20 to 5 p.m. Monday for me. So I'm way ahead of you. And we'll get back to the full card breakdown now. We've got Charles Air Jourdain, one of the biggest action fighters in the UFC, versus Nathaniel Wood. Now, one thing we have to say about Charles Jourdain is that this dude is two fighters, right? So Charles Jourdain in round 1 and 2 is a good fighter. Charles Jourdain in round 3 is a title contender. I mean, Charles Jourdain comes alive in round 3 and dominates basically anyone he's ever fought in round 3. Like, he's an absolute beast. Obviously, Julian Erosa got him out there in round 3. But other than that, I mean, the dude comes alive in round 3, Shane Burgos does not get pieced up or dominated the way he got dominated in round 3. Charles Jourdain was landing heavy shots, hurting him badly in that 3rd round. Shout out to Charles Jourdain, because he's always an exciting fighter, and he's always in exciting fights. And he's got a dance partner here who is definitely going to oblige in that type of exciting fight. Nathaniel Wood is a great fighter, and I will get to him in a minute. Another one that come from that Cage Warriors scene. But I'll get to him in a minute. I want to break down Charles Jourdain first. Obviously, Charles Jourdain is a Canadian, but we know we got a lot of French Canadians over there. So that's probably why they're bringing him over for this UFC Paris card. He is coming back very, very quickly from his last fight. He fought 1 month ago. He's fighting like 5 weeks after his last fight against Shane Burgos, a hard 3-round fight. So, I mean, the dude's just an animal, The dude fights all the time. He's coming back 5 weeks after fighting Shane Burgos, Who fights 5 weeks after they fight Shane Burgos? Nobody. Especially if it was a 3-round war, which it was. Charles Jourdain is a flashy striker, and that's what he mainly will do, right? He's a striker. Doesn't really go to his grappling that much. He has done it every now and then, but, he did it against Shane Burgos. I think he got a takedown or two, or I think he tried to maybe, but he will mainly strike. He doesn't like to be on the ground. He's a out-and-out striker. And most of the times he's got defeated, it's been from the ground, right? So Julian Erosa defeated him. That was Darce choke, grappling, ground game. Shane Burgos defeated him because Shane Burgos took him down twice and got his back. Andre Fili defeated him because Andre Fili took him down multiple times. So when he's getting taken down, he's getting beat. If it's on the feet, he's not really getting beat. He's mainly winning. I mean, he was winning the striking exchanges against Shane Burgos, who's one of the top strikers in that division. He's always in exciting fights. He throws a lot of flying knees, a lot of like jumping kicks, Superman punches, very exciting type of fighter. And I think he's got a good shot in this fight to be in the fight of the night, the most exciting fight on the card. I'll get onto his opponent, Nathaniel Wood. He is coming off that Cage Warrior scene, as I mentioned. Moved up in weight class for his last fight. Moved up to featherweight from bantamweight. He's fighting again at featherweight here. Man, this is tough because I like Nathaniel Wood, and I think his skill set is very, very high level. But I do think he's a little bit small for bantamweight, in my opinion. I do think he's a bit small. I do think he's a bit small for featherweight. He's 5'6". We've got featherweights out here that are 5'11". We got featherweights that are 6'3". Shout out to Sean Woodson, right? 5'6" is a little bit short for a featherweight in this day and age. He's not extremely jacked either. He's not like this insanely short but just crazy stocky featherweight like Chad Mendes or someone like that. He's not really like that. So I do think he's a bit small for featherweight. I do prefer him at bantamweight. But it is what it is. I do think the size could actually lose him this fight. Jourdain's going to have a reach advantage on him here. Jourdain's going to have a size height advantage on him here. The reach actually is 69 inches each. So apparently he doesn't have a reach advantage on him here, but he's going to have a reach advantage. Like, in terms of measuring his arms, maybe they are 69 inches each. I don't know. That's what Tapology says. I'll believe Tapology. But Jourdain's going to be able to reach him more than Nathaniel Wood's going to be able to reach him. That's clear, right? He's got a 3-inch height advantage, which counts for something in the reach. It's not just the reach you want to look at. You don't just want to look at the reach. You want to look at the height advantage. So, yeah, I don't like seeing him up at featherweight, but whatever. It is what it is. He is up at featherweight, so we have to talk about it, right? He fought his last fight against Charles Rosa, completely dominated Charles Rosa in that fight. Completely dominated Charles Rosa. And that was a solid showing in his featherweight debut, but it was pretty clear he was going to win that fight. It was a minus 500 favorite or something like that. Minus 600, I think he got to. I bet him via decision at plus money. And, I think it might have been minus 125. And that cashed fairly easily. So I'm not surprised he won that fight. In my opinion, he's still not a featherweight, even though he beat a featherweight. Charles Jourdain is going to oblige in the fight that Nathaniel Wood likes, which is a striking fight here. I think Nathaniel Wood, if he's smart, he would go for takedowns in this fight. But I don't really think that he will. I don't think he will go for that many takedowns in this fight. I think he's going to oblige Charles Jourdain on the feet. I really do. I don't think he should. I think he should go for takedowns. But I don't think he's going to, man. Look, I don't know, right? I don't know what's going through his mind. I don't know how his camp's gone. I don't know if he's been training in his camp. But, man, I just don't see him pushing the grappling pace in this fight. So I do think it's going to be fought on the feet for the majority of the fight. For that reason, I think Charles Jourdain has got the power edge. I think Charles Jourdain's going to win this fight, but I'm not confident in him. I think Nathaniel Wood has a huge shot in this fight. Nathaniel Wood, in my opinion, is funny because Charles Jourdain is a much more dynamic striker, but Wood is a more technical and more diverse striker. Wood will throw the inside leg kick to a leaping left hook to the body to a push kick to a step-in knee. Beautiful combos that you drill on the pads. He'll just drill them, or he'll hit them in a fight beautifully. Very technical, very diverse striker. But when you're talking about Charles Jourdain, he will throw like a spinning back punch to like a jumping high kick. You know, it's not as technical as Nathaniel Wood, but it's very, very dynamic, and he catches a lot of people with them, you know. So he's a very good striker in his own right. It's just a different style of striking. Let's check what the line is at the moment. The line's minus 150 to Charles Jourdain. I agree. I do think that the height advantage, the size advantage, yeah, I do think it's going to play a part here. I think the power advantage, yeah, I do think it's going to play a part, and I do think Charles Jourdain is going to get the win here. But I don't have any. I don't want to play it. You know, I don't have any want to play Charles Jourdain as a favorite in a fight that I think he can lose via takedowns. Like, I think that Nathaniel Wood can win this fight via takedowns for sure. Like, it can be close on the feet and he just mixes in the takedowns and he'll win the fight. I just don't trust him to mix in the takedowns as much as he needs to win this fight. So I'm going to take Charles Jourdain for the win. The next fight we have is going to be Nasrat Haqparast versus John Makdessi. Banger. Absolute banger of a fight. All right. So this fight is sorry, when I said absolute banger of a fight, I think I was thinking of the last fight. This isn't an absolute banger of a fight. This should be a decent fight, but this isn't a banger of a fight, okay? I didn't mean to say that. I'm getting a little bit tired now, guys. I haven't eaten all day. I've broke down a lot of fights, and we're 1 hour into it already, so I think I'm getting a little bit tired. But yeah, Makdessi versus Haqparast is a decent fight, right? We won't call it a banger of a fight, but it's a decent fight. Again, another fight which I don't give a fuck about when you're talking about betting. Honestly, look, I think Haqparast is going to win the fight, but he's a minus 200 favorite, minus 230. He's not even minus 200. He's minus 230, minus 225. I don't have any want of playing Nasrat Haqparast here. Look, he's the better boxer. He's fought at a much higher level. He should be quicker than Makdessi in the boxing, but Makdessi has a weird way of making you fight on the outside. If Makdessi can get his outside game going, he could probably win a weird decision, split decision, boring decision. But I don't really rate Makdessi as a fight. I don't think he's great. I did bet on him in his last fight against Ignacio Bahamondes as a big underdog, and he cashed there. So shout out to him. But Haqparast is a different level. Haqparast, you know, he's been in the trenches. He's fought at a high level. He's very tough. You're not going to get him out of there. You're not going to dissuade him. Makdessi can maybe do this little like leg kick split decision win, but Haqparast probably lands heavy punches every now and then and just sways the opinion of the judges. I don't have any want to bet on this fight. Even the over is like juiced. I don't really care about it. Next fight, guys, Haqparast via decision. The next fight is Alessio Di Chirico versus Roman Kopylov. Again, guys, another fight I don't give a shit about. And it's just because I don't like, you might give a shit about it, like in terms of a betting perspective, but I don't, because I don't have a good read on it. How can I care deeply about a fight I don't have a good read on? I honestly don't have a good read on this fight, guys. I don't really know who's going to win. I favor Kopylov a little bit more. I think he's a bit of a better striker. I think his hand speed is very high level. So, you know, that's about the only thing in his game which is high level. His hand speed. I think he can probably win the striking exchanges over the course of 15 minutes. But I think Chirico's a solid fighter, and we don't know how Chirico's going to come back from that head kick knockout from Abdelrazak Kazan. You know, he was known to be a very, very good, a very, very, very durable fighter. But then he did get hurt against Zach Cummins. You know, he got head kicked, and then he did get knocked out via head kick in his last fight. Maybe his durability is going to be a bit less now, coming back from that 17-second head kick loss, but maybe not. Look, he's a solid all-round fighter, but I don't have a great read on this one. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think it's going to be a close fight that goes to decision. I don't mind the over. The over at the moment is not a bad price. You know, it's minus 175 over 2.5 rounds. Minus 150 fight goes to decision. I don't really see these guys finishing each other. Kopylov is a finisher though. Like all his fights have finished, apart from his last fight against Duraev and his debut, his professional debut. But that Duraev fight honestly should have been finished in the second round. Duraev probably should have got the finish there. And then he got finished by Carl Roberson. Look, Kopylov is kind of like a better striker in my opinion. Like he should win the fight, but he got beat against Carl Roberson in his UFC debut. Like, that's not a great look. He got choked out as well, which is the worst look. Kind of quit in that fight a little bit. I have no desire to back Kopylov in this fight. I just don't know much about the dude. I don't know if he's any good. And then I don't have any desire to back DiChirico because, I mean, it's DiChirico, you know, like, unless he's got a huge edge in one department, I can't really trust him. And what department does he have a huge edge in? Like, obviously, yeah, UFC experience, but that's not a department. When I'm talking about department, like, is he a much better striker? No. Is he a much better grappler? No. Is he going to easily get takedowns? No. Is he going to be able to get the back? Like, is he a much better jiu-jitsu fighter? No. I mean, is he got much better cardio? No. Is he way better at dictating the pace? Is he going to be able to dictate where the fight goes? Probably not. I mean, it's probably going to be a close fight, guys. So, I mean, I'm passing on that one myself. May look at the over. We'll see how it goes. I don't really know. The next fight we have is the co-main event of the evening, right? Robert Whittaker versus Marvin Vettori. What a great fight. This breakdown will be small, short, and concise. I think that Robert Whittaker is a good spot to beat Marvin Vettori. You know, I'm not rushing to bet him at minus 230 or whatever he is, but I do think he has all the advantages here. I mean, Vettori, what's he going to do to win this fight? I mean, he's very durable and he can push the pace and he's a decent boxer. You need more than that to beat Robert Whittaker, in my opinion. Look, he'll spam takedowns as well, but I don't think he's going to be able to get Robert Whittaker to the ground. Robert Whittaker has solid takedown defense. Even Yoel Romero couldn't ground him. He could take him down, but he couldn't keep him on the ground. So even someone like Romero couldn't do that to Robert Whittaker. So I don't think Vettori is going to be able to do that, honestly. Even if Vettori does get him down, I don't really think he's going to be able to hold him down. I rate Whittaker's get-up game and defensive grappling ability. Whittaker's going to be on the outside. Whittaker has a huge speed advantage, huge range control advantage, huge experience at the top level advantage. Vettori just doesn't have the game to beat Robert Whittaker, in my opinion. And I've been quite high on Vettori. I've bet him in a lot of his fights. I bet him against Paulo Costa at like minus 180 or something. I bet him against Kevin Holland at like minus 300. I bet him against Jack Hermansson at like minus 130. I've been heavy on Marvin Vettori. I honestly have. But I just feel like in this fight is a bad stylistic matchup for him. I think he's going to get his head pinged off. And I think Robert Whittaker is going to win a clean decision, you know, kind of like how he has been doing in his recent fights against everybody not named Israel Adesanya. So that's it. A short breakdown for me, guys, because I don't feel like I have to speak about it too much more than that. Marvin Vettori, in my opinion, has got to fight the perfect fight to beat Whittaker. And even then, like, it's probably going to be a close fight, even if he fights the perfect fight. In my opinion, for him to beat Whittaker, Whittaker has to be done. Like, is he really going to tire Whittaker out? Is he really going to make Whittaker gas out? Whittaker's expert at staying on the outside and just circling off. And he's got great, he's got a great takedown defense and he's got great cardio. So I don't know, man. I like Whittaker in this spot. I think he wins a decision comfortably, you know, majority of the time these guys fight, especially in a 3-round fight. 5-round fight, Marvin has more time to break him with his pressure, but 3-round fight, I mean, it is a 3-round fight, right? Yeah, I mean, it's a 3-round fight, so it's just even favors Whittaker even more, in my opinion. So yeah, Whittaker via decision, guys. The next fight, Ciryl Gane versus Tai Tuivasa. One of the greatest fighters in the division, Ciryl Gane, one of the best fighters in the UFC, one of the best fighters in his weight class, I'll say, because he showed that huge grappling hole against Francis Ngannou last time up. But he won't need to worry about that here, in my opinion, because Tai Tuivasa, the dude doesn't shoot takedowns, you know. So Look, this is again, I'm not going to take long on this one, guys. This is a tailor-made matchup for Ciryl Gane. If Ciryl Gane loses this fight, something's gone majorly wrong, or he's just got caught by a big dude in Tai Tuivasa. Tai Tuivasa is a tailor-made matchup for Ciryl Gane. I think Ciryl Gane's going to dance on the outside. I think Ciryl Gane's going to do exactly what he did to Derek Lewis, just piece him up from the outside, make it look easy. I think Tai Tuivasa is just running on. He's just hoping that he lands a big shot here. Tai Tuivasa, he's a fun fighter. He's gone on a great run of late, but he is not in the level of Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane is on another level than Tai Tuivasa, and I think he's going to dominate him until he gets a late stoppage. I think he probably ends the fight in the championship rounds here. Look, he could go to decision. Tai Tuivasa is a tough motherfucker. I will say that. Yeah, Tai Tuivasa has been stopped before. You know, he got stopped by Junior Dos Santos, and he did get stopped by Spivak, but he's a tough motherfucker. And Ciryl Gane will not press the finish if he doesn't feel like he needs to. You know, he's comfortable to stay on the outside and just pick you apart from range. I just feel like after being kicked in the body 100 times over the first 15 minutes, Tuivasa is just going to get tired, going to get gassed out, going to get hurt. He's just going to kind of mentally check out at some point, in my opinion. Not mentally check out because he's so tough, but he's just going to be like, look, I can't do anything to Ciryl. Ciryl just keeps hurting me. I think Cyril's going to catch an elbow or something heavy in like the 4th or 5th round and probably finish him there. But I don't mind Ciryl via decision as well. I think that could happen. Plus 250 is not the worst. I just think Cyril's going to outclass Tai Tuivasa in this fight. So that's it. That's the whole breakdown, guys. I'm going with Ciryl Gane to win round 4, 5 or decision. I know that prop's out there on a couple of books. So Ciryl Gane 4-5 or decision is a solid prop in my opinion. So that's it, guys. 1 minute 11, and we've broke down every single fight on the card. I really feel that this is a solid card for betting. I really feel that this is a solid card for entertainment purposes. And I hope that I've made your Monday or Sunday a little bit more exciting and give you something to look forward to and give you some solid spots to bet on. I hope I can help you make money. And I hope I have done that in this video. So that's it, guys. If you want to sign up with me and get my full picks, as I said, I've been betting for over 13 years. I'm not a newbie in this game. I know what it takes to make money in this game. You have to have a long-term mindset. You know, a lot of people join sports betting, find out about sports betting, have a couple quick wins, think it's easy, burn out, lose, and they go up and down for their entire career. A lot of people don't understand that you have to have a long-term nature in sports betting. You know, you're going to go through months and months where you lose money. You're going to go through months and months where you win money. It's an up and down game. It's a never-ending game. It's not easy to win money from sports betting. Not many people can do it. A very, very small percentage of the population can do it. But I can and have been doing it for many, many, many years now. And I will continue to do that. If you did want all of my official picks, my breakdowns, and my sports betting training courses, you can sign up to my website, lucrativemmabetting.com, and you will have direct access to me as well as all my official picks. You know, we earn a lot of money over the years, and we're going to continue to earn money. And we're on a solid win streak here. We've won 5 of the last 6 events in a row. And one of those events, we definitely should have won because we had Costa fight doesn't go to decision and Kamaru Usman. We got robbed on both of them. You know, not robbed, obviously shit happens, but like on another day, those both easily win. So we're on a solid win streak here. And I'm hoping it can continue this week. Not much more to say, guys. I appreciate every single one of you for being here. If you wasn't here, I wouldn't be able to get likes, get views, and there wouldn't be a show, right? So shout out to all of you guys. And I may come back in a couple of days and do another take on this card. Maybe I was thinking, and let me know in the comments, not the comments now, not the live chat, but the actual comments of the video, because I'm not going to look at the live chat because I'm logging off now. But I may come out in a couple of days and tell you guys my best prop bet on each fight. I may do that because I've got a lot of time because the fight's still a week away, right? So if you want that, comment, not in a live chat, but comment on the video that you'd like to see that prop video. And if I get enough comments, if I get enough people saying they do want it, I will come back and I'll give you my best prop bet for each fight on I'll do that maybe tomorrow or in a couple of days. So thanks everybody again for watching, and I'll be back next week. Or maybe in a couple of days with a prop bet.